Indiana men's basketball has a terrible resume right now, but can they fix it before Selection Sunday?
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. It is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you making Locked On Hoosiers your first listen each and every day. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today, and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. Well, we all know that Indiana has a horrible resume. It's terrible. One quad win. You've got a quad 3 loss. You have no significant wins, in my opinion, on the season. But the question is, can we fix it? Can we change that before Selection Sunday? That's coming up on the show today. Plus, we'll take a look at what Mike Woodson, who had to say on his weekly radio show. It was actually an assistant coach that we're going to talk about and see what they had to say. And also, Indiana women, the ladies, get it done last night against Wisconsin. So that's all coming up on the show today. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. If you're on YouTube, like the video, subscribe to the channel. It's free, helps us grow, and you can be a part of that. If you're on audio, we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Indiana's resume, it's terrible. Yeah, I mean, it's bad. You start looking up and down our schedule. We've played good games and we've played good teams. And there are a lot of teams in college basketball right now that are getting a lot of love by Ken Pom and the net rankings and bracketology and all the mess that they use when it comes to making and picking the teams that make the NCAA tournament. There's a lot of teams getting love right now because they've played a tough schedule. And when you start pulling up the net rankings, I look at a team like Alabama. Alabama out of the SEC, they're 17-7 overall. They're 3-6 in quad 1 games, but they've played 9 quad 1 games. And if you look at their schedule, they played Arizona, they played Purdue, they played Creighton, they've played Auburn a couple of times. I mean, they've played good teams, but they're not winning those games, but yet the metrics still love them because they're playing tough games and tough teams. And, you know, you look at Purdue, they're 9-2 in quad 1 games, Arizona 7-3, UConn, the number 1 team in the country, 4th in the net, they're 8-2 in quad 1 games. And so you just start looking around and you're thinking, okay, when do we start celebrating teams for winning those games? Congratulations for playing them, but you got to win them. And that's exactly where Indiana has been all season long. Look back at our schedule. We played that UConn team, who's now the number 1 team in the country. We played that Auburn team, who is rolling right now in the top 15, just whacked South Carolina. I think they have maybe Kentucky this weekend. Then you have Kansas, who has consistently been a top 10 team all year, plus Purdue and Wisconsin and Illinois, top 15 teams consistently. You played Purdue again. Those are all the teams you've played. But guess what? You haven't won any of those. You haven't won any of those big-time games when you had the chance to do so. The closest you came was the Kansas game. And let's be honest, we should have won that game. And that's a problem. That's an issue when March rolls around. And guess what? We're halfway through February. March is right around the corner. February is the make or break month for teams to separate themselves from tournament contenders to NIT contenders. And we don't care about the NIT. I don't care, and you shouldn't either. You should not care about the NIT. It's an embarrassment to be in that tournament. So this is the time where teams are separating themselves. And guess who hasn't done that? Us, Indiana. We haven't done that yet. Thankfully, we still have chances to do that. I've told you about the upcoming schedule. Northwestern, Nebraska at home, at Penn State, home versus Wisconsin, number 20 team in the country right now. at Maryland, at Minnesota, and home for Michigan State, who is 22 in the net. And Wisconsin is 20. And you keep looking around and you look at trying to see Northwestern on here. I'll find them in just a second. You have chances. Northwestern's 56. So, you're still looking at a solid game there. So you still have those opportunities to build up that resume because, yes, it's a commonly used word around this time of year, but it matters. It's everything right now because if Indiana, just because you happen to upset Wisconsin, let's say, okay, that's only your second quad one win. You've still got a bunch of losses in there, plus what's considered a bad loss in quad three. And I just don't think, I know right now we don't have the resume to do it, but even if we go on a run at the end of the season, would that be enough? I don't think so. I think you have to go on a run at the end of this year and get a little help by yourself and give yourself a little boost in the Big Ten tournament because, the numbers just hate this Indiana team, and understandably so. It's a pretty ugly team right now, sitting at 100 in the net rankings at 14-10 overall. You are 1-8 in quad one games. You're 4-1 in quad two, 4-1 in quad three. So, yeah, you're struggling. And that Penn State loss was ugly, man. That was ugly to let Penn State come in here and beat us by 14 points. I say all of that to say this. It's do or die. It's now or never. It's right now. It starts with Northwestern on Sunday. And these couple of big opportunities that you have to win. I would say Indiana's got to win out. I think we got to win out. The only one you can afford to lose, maybe at Maryland, maybe. But even then, I don't think so. Because our resume is weak. We brought this to a job interview. They'd kick us out to the curb. They'd laugh at us and laugh us out the door. They wouldn't even show us the way out. That's what's happening right now. We have a chance to fix it, but it's do or die right now. Starting with Northwestern this weekend, I think Indiana has to win out. I think you win out, make a run in the Big Ten tournament, make some noise, and hope you get lucky. Well, coming up on the show today, we'll take a look at what Mike Woodson, well, maybe not Mike Woodson, had to say on his weekly radio show. Comments from a different coach on the Indiana staff as we look past what has happened this week, looking ahead to this weekend, Indiana and Northwestern. That's coming up on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. You've got the All-Star game this weekend. You've got all the All-Star events, dunk contest, three-point contest. All that's going to be on FanDuel. Drop $5 on it. If you win, you're going to get $150 just like that. Try it out. It's so easy, right? With FanDuel, and they've taken care of us here at Locked On. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with live same-game parlays, quick bets, exclusive props, and much more. Just visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen, your go-to spot for all things Indiana athletics. Well, we typically look at what Mike Woodson says during the week, post-game interviews, all that good stuff. And during his weekly radio show, he was actually not available. And so this was actually associate head coach Kenya Hunter on the Indiana staff. And the reason we're still going over this is because I'm really interested and want to talk to you about this because I've read through these a couple of times, and it's nice to hear somebody different. It's nice to hear different words and different usages and different terminology and not the same thing over and over. And so some interesting ones that I want to point out here. Talking about Indiana And just really about the loss at Purdue. Said, quote, I thought Khalil Ware in the game, we were able to guard Zach Edey more than one-on-one and act like we were going to double. He also said that we did some good things offensively early, but it didn't continue. Yeah, I would say so. It talked about Purdue and just how much better they are and how compared to what they have been. It says the transfer addition of Lance Jones gives Purdue another piece, and Braden Smith's development as a point guard has really helped. Wow, crazy what happens when you have good guard play. Crazy what happens when you've got leadership and accountability and dependability at the guard spot. It's almost like it's crucial to win in college basketball. He said, quote, Purdue is a team that's not going to beat themselves, so you do have to be disciplined on both ends of the floor. And it's true. I mean, Purdue is a team that's not going to turn it over much. They're not going to make mistakes. They're not going to take bad shots. And you have to play a solid 40 minutes of basketball. Talking about CJ Gunn's career-high 13 points, he said we needed that. And hopefully for CJ, it can give him confidence with 7 games remaining to be consistently like that off the bench. And it's not just the scoring. It's the ability to play both sides of the ball and execute. He says he thinks he played relaxed against Purdue and was able to hit shots. And, yeah, I mean, we've been begging for it, right? We've been begging for somebody to step up and play, for somebody to step up and be the man, for somebody else to score other than Malik Reneau and Khalil Ware. And you'll get it every 5 games from Trey Galloway. You'll get it every 5 games from Mackenzie Mbako. You'll almost never get it from anybody else off the bench, but it was nice to see CJ Gunn play that way. It was nice to see him prove that it's in there. And I think that's the big thing for me is the fact that we know with so many of these guys, we know that it's in there. We know that they can do it. It's possible for them to play well, whether it be shooting the basketball, whether it be defending, whether it be passing, making the right play, making the right pass, making the right decision, not turning it over, right? Getting back on defense or running down the floor on offense. Like, we know it's in there. They've shown it. They've proven it. Everybody on this team, but you don't get it every night. You don't even get half of it every night. And that's the issue here. And so, yeah, Coach, I get it. I'm with you. It's nice to see that CJ played a great game and had a career high, but man, what happens if we start piecing that together with Anthony Leal playing well, with the continued success of Malik Reneau and Khalil Ware? What happens if we get the 15 points a night from Trey Galloway? What happens if we get the elite shooting from Mackenzie Mbako? If all those things come together, this would be a really, really tough team to beat. We are a tough out in a tournament somewhere. But I just don't think all of that's come together this year. It hasn't. There's not been one game where all of that came together at the same time. And that is a major issue. He says he also has never seen a player like Zach Edey and probably never will. Said they're going to look different when he leaves. I can tell you that. Obviously, Matt Painter does a good job, but he's a problem every year, and that's why he's having success. He's gotten better every year, which is true. I don't know what his success rate's going to be in the NBA, but I guess we'll find out. So here's what he had to say on Trey Galloway. Had some comments on Anthony Leal and all that, but I'm more curious on what he says about Galloway here. He says he actually has become our playmaker with X out. He has been able to not only score himself, but make plays for other players. We need him to do that. He has to be be that guard for us on the perimeter, make opportunities for himself and for others. Sometimes, yeah, sometimes, but then other times he just disappears. We're playing 4-on-5 basketball sometimes because Galloway just disappears. And yes, I know there is some of that on opposing defenses, shutting him down, locking him down, and making it difficult for him. But you're a senior. Get over it. Find a way to be better if you're Trey Galloway. And just sometimes he can't do that. Talking about his shooting struggles, says, I don't know if it's confidence, but he's a target. He's one of our best players, and opponents are going to game plan for him, so it gets harder, as I was just saying. He's not getting the clean looks from being double-teamed, from Trace Jackson Davis. Is not as easy as it was last year, which that's understandable. And I kind of agree with that, where Galloway has become one of the focal points for other defenses, whereas in the years past, maybe he wasn't. But again, get over it. Find a way. Get open. Do something. Make it work. Move without the basketball. Make plays for your other teammates. Go and rebound the basketball. And he's had open shots. I don't want to hear that. He's had open shots. He's just not knocking them down. Also says he needs to realize when he needs to create for himself or be able to create and get other shots as well. He struggled from three. He's been a little inconsistent, but he's got to take good shots, and that's going to help percentages. But again, he's getting good shots. He's getting good shots. How many wide open threes has Trey Galloway stood on the wing and just clanked, right? Just off the hard side of the rim on the back iron. More than not. I mean, it's just, and for me, when he stands behind that three-point line and he gets an open shot and lets it fly, I have no confidence. I've none. No confidence. The only person I have confidence in shooting threes right now is Mackenzie Mbako. That's it. He's got the best looking stroke, and he's got probably the best percentage, give or take. I haven't looked at it updated, but I just don't have the confidence right now. I don't in Trey Galloway, and he hasn't done anything to give me that. A couple of other things before we move on. He talked about the inconsistencies, said it's tough when you have a young group, and we've been emphasizing putting 40 minutes together, not just one half. We have a lot of young guys playing a lot of minutes, and in the past, we've had older guys when we've struggled. They knew what spots to be in and how to help each other out. But here's what I'm going to say to that. You've got seniors on the team. I know X isn't playing, but he could be a leader. Galloway, he is a senior. He's playing. You've got guys that have played college basketball for numerous years, playing and on the bench. Come together and be a team. Come together and lead each other. I don't understand why that's not happening, why that can't happen here. I don't get it. And I'm afraid this team's going to crumble. I'm afraid we're just going to say, to heck with this. Season's over. Whatever. We're done. We're going to move on. And not just we're going to move on to next year. Some of these guys may just move on from Indiana altogether. Well, coming up on our final segment on Locked On Hoosiers, the Indiana Lady Hoosiers get it done against Wisconsin on the road. Got a couple of records broken. We had something happen that does not happen very often with Miss Mackenzie Holmes. We'll talk about that, plus look ahead for the Lady Hoosiers this weekend. All that coming up here on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Look, I tell you all the time, my favorite part is the views from your seats in the venue. You can get on any venue, look at any seat, and see exactly what you're going to see, whether it's the basketball game, whether it's a comedy show, whether it be theater, whatever. You get to see what's around you, what's in front of you, what's behind you. You get to see exactly what you're going to see before you buy. With their lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, and job loss protection and more, Game Time is the place to go. It's the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. You have all-in prices to show your total upfront, so you know you're getting a great deal before you check out. And you can buy tickets in seconds with just 2 taps. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Terms apply. Just download the Game Time app and use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Final segment here on Locked On Hoosiers. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen each and every day. And as we sidestep from the men's team, as we continue covering and talking about the women's team for Indiana, number 14 in the country, we told you yesterday they were going on the road in the Big Ten, taking on a average Wisconsin team, I'd say, and got a little sketchy a couple times in this game. Lady Hoosiers do get it done, 68-54. Indiana came out hot. Wisconsin was able to respond, a 1-point lead at the break in the first quarter. Then Indiana dominated the second quarter, 21-6. The defense was on fire in that second quarter. Indiana's feeling good. Hoosiers in the locker room, yada, yada, yada. You come out and the Badgers go on a little bit of a run. They go on a little run, making it interesting in that third quarter. But Hoosiers did not play a good third quarter, but they bounce back and get it done 68-54. And some of the things that you look at here, you had Sara Scalia, who got a 3 in that third quarter, kind of put a little patch on the wound, if you will. And she also, not only with that 3, had 15 total points with 4 threes made. That is 79 threes for her on the season, which is a season record for Indiana, which is just another thing that this Hoosiers team is doing, man. You've got Mackenzie Holmes, who became the women's all-time leading scorer. You've got Sara Scalia, who is breaking records from the three-pointers on the season. Like, this team is doing something special, and it's so much fun to watch. You also, in case you didn't see this, how about something that does not happen very often? How about Mackenzie Holmes knocking down a straightaway 3? And man, she caught it at the top. She gripped it and ripped it, man. It was awesome. It was so cool to watch her do that because, again, that just doesn't happen a whole lot for her. It's just not a shot that she takes very often, but man, she knocked it down last night. It was fantastic to see, and a very confident shooter. I'll tell you that. A very confident shooter that she was on that. And so it was great to see that. Indiana just kind of rolled. She had another great night. Did Mackenzie Holmes in this basketball game. She's averaging 20 points, almost 21 points a game this season. And she was right on point with that with 24 last night. 11-19 from the floor. That 1 3-pointer. 1 for 4 at the free throw line, so nothing too crazy there. But 8 rebounds, almost had a double-double. You had 3 Hoosiers get into double digits with Scalia, and you also had Chloe Moore-McNeil, who got into double digits as well. So Indiana rolling, man. I wasn't too worried about this game. Wisconsin, like I said, they are an average, below average team in the Big Ten. Wasn't overly concerned. Road games in the middle of the week can be interesting, can be tricky, if you will. But you look at what's coming up for Indiana for the Lady Hoosiers, and we've talked about how the schedule's not bad down the stretch. 4 games left for them, which is crazy, I know. They'll wrap up a road trip with Illinois this weekend coming up on the 19th. And so they'll have that coming up. That is on Monday, actually. So not this weekend, I guess early next week, if you will. They'll have that on Monday. And then next week is the big one on, what day is that on? That's on Thursday. Number 4, Iowa, Caitlyn Clark. She's about to break the scoring record. We know that. That'll be broken by the time she gets to Bloomington. So we'll have that out of the way. And Indiana's looking for some revenge in that game. And you know what? I think we're playing well. I think we're playing really, really well. We're scoring the ball effectively. Our defense the last 2 games has been really, really good. Interested to see how we look against this Illinois team that, again, is a below average team. They're under 500 overall, way under 500 in the Big Ten. It's just another road game, business trip, if you will, for the Lady Hoosiers. Go, do your thing. It could be a look-ahead game. It very well could, but I think this team's more mature than that. I think they're too focused. They've got too much leadership. They've got too much seniority on this team to do that, and I'm not worried about the Illinois game. That's going to be a fun Iowa game. Number 4 team in the country right now. Then you're at Northwestern and home versus Maryland. That would get Indiana. I think that would give them another bump. That would give us another bump on the seed lines in the NCAA tournament. And that's pretty much the only other chance you have unless you see Iowa again in the Big Ten tournament for the women, because unfortunately, the 3 teams at the top, Iowa, Ohio State, and Indiana, are great in this conference. Everybody else, they're kind of hanging around. They're struggling. There are some that are solid, though. I mean, right now, the Big Ten's got 8 teams in the women's bracketology. So we're going to have some chances to get more wins down the stretch. But Indiana right now, I think I said this the other day, a 4 seed. I think that should be higher. It's ridiculous. But that would be played in Bloomington. Just saying that would be played in Bloomington where we are right now. So keep that in mind. And I think we're better than that. I think a win over Iowa would bump us up to a 3 seed. Maybe a run in the Big Ten tournament could get us to a 2 seed. So we'll keep you updated on that. And I'm excited for this women's team, man. They're a lot of fun to watch. They're just good, man. They're a solid team. They're fundamentally sound. They do it the right way. They can hit shots from the outside. They're going to crash on the boards inside. They're going to crash the paint as well. And they're just going to wear you down on the defensive side. They are a fun team to watch. And don't you worry, we're going to cover it all here on Locked On Hoosiers as the men's team keeps going, women's team coming down to the wire, getting into postseason play. We'll have all of that for you here on your go-to spot for Indiana athletics, Locked On Hoosiers. Well, that is going to do it for today's episode. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. Tomorrow, we will have a preview episode for Indiana and Northwestern. That game taking place on Sunday afternoon. We'll have a reaction episode go up for you on Sunday night. Video Sunday night, audio Monday morning. Okay, so keep that in mind. But episode coming out tomorrow, preview episode for the Hoosiers. It's been forever. I mean, we've had a whole week since we didn't play a game. So we'll have that coming up for you tomorrow. Reaction episode over the weekend. So until tomorrow, Hoosier fans, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.